The stars are right, and that means it's time for another episode of The Whisper in Darkness. I'm your host, the Man from Lang. Thank you very much for joining me today. On this episode, we are continuing with our review of the player cards in the Edge of the Earth Investigator expansion. This time we're taking a look at the Guardian and Rogue multi-class cards Snipe, Old Shotgun, and Quickdraw Holster. There are spoilers throughout if you care about that sort of thing. If you enjoy what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Just a quick reminder of how we rate cards here on The Whisper in Darkness. The best of the best get an Elder Sign, while the worst of the worst get an Auto Fail, and the cards in between get a +1, 0, or Elder Thing respectively. Cards that you build around or are good in one particular investigator get a Bless token, while cards that we believe are destined to end up on the optional list of taboos or that are just bad for the game get a Curse token. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the patrons of this channel for their tremendous support. The Arkham Horror LCG community is amazing, and these people have gone above and beyond to bring you content like these reviews. If you'd like to support the channel's goals and see your name on this list, head over to patreon.com, sign up for a tier of your choice, and claim your rewards. That would be awesome. Special thanks to Cole Monroe Chitty for the art that graces the channel, Nicole Fiscus for the new Whisper in Darkness logo, and Nate Lost in Time and Space for the intro as well as the overlays. Thank you very much. I couldn't do it without you. Without further ado, let's get started. We are back with our review of the player cards in the Edge of the Earth Investigator expansion. This time around, we are taking a look at the Guardian/Rogue multi-class cards. The first card is Snipe. It is a free event that costs 1 experience point. It has combat and agility skill icons, the tactic trait. During the next fight action you perform this turn, using a ranged or firearm asset, treat each Skull Cultist, Tablet, Elder Thing, or Auto-Fail token you reveal as a 0 token. This action does not provoke attacks of opportunity. Thoughts on Snipe?
Why doesn't this card say fast? If this card said fast, it would be so good.
Yeah.
But the fact that it doesn't say fast really restricts this to pretty much parallel Roland, unfortunately.
Oh, I see what you mean. So, like, when I look at this, I see Eat Lead. Is it? Yeah, it's Eat Lead level 0.
Mm-hmm.
That basically does the same thing. You know, you're more likely to land your firearm attack, but except Eat Lead level 0 doesn't cost an action to play. And I don't see Eat Lead level 0 showing up in every single Guardian deck on Arkham DB, so I don't see... Snipe is just kind of worse than Eat Lead level 0, so why play this?
Like, this sort of feels like Premonition in a way. It's like a restrictive Premonition, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, and Premonition's fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
And like, that being said, like, being able to turn the auto-fail into a 0 is a powerful ability. Like, being able to, like, guarantee those last couple of points of damage on a boss is pretty good.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Well,
we've got
toe to toe.
It's true.
Yeah.
Toe to toe is a great card, but this is like, it's so close to being so good. And then it just like it just fumbles over that last hurdle.
Maybe it's a typo and it's supposed to say fast, because that would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest issue with this card is that it is not fast, so you're taking an action to play this, which if you need to fight a bunch of turn, you're sacrificing one of those fights to play this in the hopes that you're improving your odds of landing that shot. Now, you can make this card fast. Nate alluded to playing this in parallel Roland, who has the Directive Red Tape that can make a tactic fast. You can also use Chuck Fergus to make this fast. However, that's a 5 XP solution. I mean, Chaos Bag Manipulation is fairly rare in Guardian and Rogue. You mentioned Eat Lead. There are a couple levels of that, but other than that, it's pretty rare. Treating a special token as a 0 does synergize with the Winchester if you're going that route. The one area I could sort of see where I would pick up this card is if I was playing on harder expert difficulty, where I think you would be willing to sacrifice one action to improve the odds that you get a big hit in with one action. So because the variance in the bag is so much greater on harder expert, it's like, okay, I'm not going to take low quality shots. I'm going to sort of pay the extra action in order to improve the odds that I draw 0 and hit with whatever weapon I'm doing. But I mean, I've never played Eat Lead in any of my decks. I highly doubt I'm going to pick up Snipe to play, so as far as I'm concerned, I don't really see a point to this card.
I see a point to this card, Shotgun. Because Shotgun requires you to succeed over a certain threshold, and being able to turn 5, 6, 7 tokens into the bag into a 0 is going to be good, because, you know, that's the exact situation where you're willing to give up one action to be able to deal 5, 6 damage.
So what you're saying, Nate, is that the best and intended use for a card called Snipe is
Yes.
with a shotgun.
Correct. That is exactly what I'm saying. The title of this card should have been, so anyway, I started blasting. Because that's really what this, like, that's the, I think, the prime, like, situation for this card. Or, you know, something that takes multiple actions to perform, like Sledgehammer or something like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, Sledgehammer is melee, so you can't really use that on this. But, you know, something along those lines, right? Where you're trying to, like, make one huge attack, and this helps
Yeah.
you push through that.
I think it's because we've never received a proper sniper rifle. I mean, all of our sniper rifle solutions have been just awful in this game, and they keep
Because
sort of
taboo them upwards.
they've had to taboo them upwards or change them in some way. They sort of tinker around the edges a lot, but never quite get it right. And this just seems like yet another attempt to make those sorts of cards viable. And well, how do you guys rate this one?
I think not Tommy, but Tony. In Tony, I could see this being pretty good, because Tony can take sawed-off shotgun. He gets the extra actions from his bounties and all that stuff, so he can kind of afford to use this, take an extra action with his special ability, and then fire off a big shotgun blast or something like that. Especially if you're comboing it with like extra ammo, all of a sudden you're like killing pretty much everything. Outside of that, this is not good. It's just too slow.
Why is this in the same set as Lily Chen, who can't take firearms, and Bob Jenkins?
Well, Bob can take items. You know, Bob does want to play items.
No, he's not exactly Tony Morgan, you know, or not, you know,
Very
or Mark
true.
Harrigan. Yeah, it's like, why is this in this set?
I feel like some cards are clearly specifically designed for the investigators in the box, and then other cards in this expansion are clearly intended for us veteran players who have a full collection.
I'd give it a tentacle. Don't play this. Play Eat Lead instead if you really want this effect. Yeah.
I actually think that this is slightly better than Eat Lead in the decks you want to play it in. In shotgun decks, I think it's okay, but
we should get it tabooed to stay fast, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah, if this was fast, this would be so good.
They can even scratch off that this action does not provoke attacks of opportunity, and then put fast, and then problem solved.
I don't know, man. The thing is, if I rate this the way I play, I'll never buy this. Just never buy it. Even for 1 XP, it's just not it's not an effect that I feel I need or want. Nate does make some good points, however, that, you know, potentially if you're playing shotgun, but then it just feels like, how many cards do you need to make shotgun good? Like
30.
You start playing a bunch of cards to make other cards good. That starts to worry me. I'm just going to give this a tentacle. I'll never play this card. Don't let that stop you, though. I mean, if you play gun decks and feel this effect is important to you, then by all means, it's certainly cheap enough at 1 XP. You can't really go wrong there, and turning a token into a 0 can have some use, but yeah, this is not a card that I will be playing anytime soon. That brings us to the old shotgun.
Oh, shotguns.
It is a free asset that costs 2 experience point, and when I say free asset, you know what's coming. There's got to be some sort of catch, and believe you me, this one is full of catches. It has a combat skill icon, item, weapon, and firearm trait. Uses 0 ammo. While playing an event, treat old shotgun's uses value as 2. As an action, you can spend an ammo. Fight, you get +3 combat for this attack instead of its standard damage. This attack's damage is equal to the amount you succeeded by, or fail by if you fail and would damage another investigator, to a minimum of 1 to a maximum of 3, and this takes up 2 hand slots. Okay, this one gets a tentacle from me based on game text alone, because this one is going to need an FAQ all of its own to help explain to players how this card actually works, because the game text is very confusing. Basically, if you want this card to enter play with ammo, you have to use an event to get it into play. So you're playing a card like Ever Vigilant, or you're playing a card like Sleight of Hand, or You Owe Me One, or Untimely Transaction in order to get this into play. Now, you can also use tricksy plays that I would never have thought of. I had to look all these up. Dexter Drake can do it if he plays an event that requires a skill test, like Backstab, say, because it requires a skill test. You play Backstab, and then you use Dexter's free triggered ability to sneak this thing into play while you are playing the event. Thus, you get the 2 ammo. You can also do this with Joey the Rat Vigil, an ally who was released way back in Undimensioned and Unseen, or the Dunwich Legacy at some point. There's an upgraded version. He can do something similar. Basically, if you want to get this thing into play with ammo, you're going to have to jump through some hoops.
I admittedly thought that text was solely there for Swift Reload, because otherwise Swift Reload wouldn't put any ammo on it. I honestly
That's what I
didn't...
was guessing they were doing here.
Yeah,
because...
I didn't even consider any of that nonsense what you were talking about.
Yeah, because I'm thinking you play this, you play the sleight of hand, you put this thing into play, then the use's value drops to 0 because you've stopped playing the event, so the ammo disappears. I was like, what? So like,
I'm still confused. Like, it just says treated as 2, right? Like, it doesn't say it comes into play with 2 ammo. That would have made sense. But the way it's worded, like, to me, it feels like it's just there to interact with Swift Reload.
Like, I almost understood it if it was like, okay, you get an empty shotgun. Okay, you have a shotgun. It's empty. You've got to play another card to give it ammo. Okay, I can understand that. You have to play another card to give it ammo, and then once you give it ammo, it's pretty good. But like, what, Dexter mid-test can like give it ammo, and then what happens to the ammo after the event is done? Does it go away or is it not? And all this work for 3 damage maximum. I mean, it's really good. Like, if you could for 2 XP, you have a weapon that can deal 3 damage. That's pretty good.
I did tell you
Why
there was a catch when I...
What the heck? Why is this in the set? Like, and then this is for Lily?
This is for Bob?
Like, I don't understand.
Like, how is Bob playing this? Is he using, like, Untimely Transaction to play it out of his hand or something? Like, I don't know. What's this? This is confusing.
I can honestly say this is another card that I will probably never play because I don't really understand it. I've read, I checked Arkham DB because when I read this, I'm like, I don't understand this card, so I better check Arkham DB. And there are some very good explanations of how to use this card. And I don't know, like,
you know what I know what I want to rate. I've decided my rating. I've got it. I want to rate this thing. You're going to have to do a little bit of editing work. A token with a question mark on it. Because I don't know what this card does.
I mean, if you can get it to play with ammo, then it's... I mean, you
maybe
get +3 attack for 3 damage.
I don't know. Yeah, if you get ammo on it, that's pretty good.
It's a couple shots. It's, sleight of hand. You bounce it back to your hand. Then you got to figure out how to play it again to get more ammo on it. And I'm just going to give this one a bless token. You're obviously building around this because it's not a card you just put in your deck and start blasting away. You've got some hoops to jump through, and you probably have to play the cards to get this thing into play with ammo on it because it doesn't interplay with ammo normally. So it's a bless. I'll probably never play it because it's a confusing card, and I'll wait for the FAQ to explain it to me.
Please, Maxine, explain this card to me. I'm very confused. I think I'm gonna rate this with a less, I guess, as well. Like you said, you're definitely building around this, and you're weirdly enough, I guess you're going to be sniping with your old shotgun? Question mark. This whole card is just weird. I don't like it. It
Yeah,
hurts my brain.
it's funny how just adding while playing an event, treat old shotgun's uses value as 2 creates something so unwieldy. Like I think if you just put uses 0 and left that part off, it would be so much easier to understand how this card worked. And yet they add that, and all of a sudden it's just like, so how does this interact with events? How does this interact with Dexter? How does this interact with Joey?
Or like, even if you wanted to keep those interactions, you could have worded it in such a way where it says like, while playing an event, put 2 ammo on the old shotgun while it enters play or something. Something along those lines, right?
Uses 2 ammo. Old shotgun enters play with 0 ammo. Or forced after old shotgun enters play, remove 2 ammo tokens from it.
Yeah, like I feel like there's a more elegant way of doing that.
That makes sense too.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
why is this in the set with Lily Chen? Like,
I don't know. Yeah, it's very strange that they would include a bunch of firearms in a set with an investigator that cannot play firearms.
Yeah. I wonder if these 2 cards were for the Mike McGlenn set.
I feel like this card is. It feels like a Tony / shotgun card.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I guess, skids a little bit, but.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I haven't even gotten into the fact that it takes up 2 hand slots, which makes it really unwieldy in solo. Because even if you're playing a rogue, like maybe if you're playing Guardian and you're cheating clues, that's fine. But if you're playing a rogue, you probably need your lock picks.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's awkward. And while the next card gives you a hand slot, it doesn't work with cards like this. That brings us to Quickdraw Holster. 4 cost asset that costs 4 experience points. Combat and 2 agility skill icons, item, tool, and illicit traits. As a free triggered ability, you could choose a firearm asset taking up only 1 hand slot in your play area. Attach it to Quickdraw Holster or switch it with the attached asset. The attached asset takes up no hand slots, limit 1 attached asset. And as a free triggered ability, you can exhaust Quickdraw Holster to perform a fight action on the attached asset without paying its action cost. Takes up a body slot. So this does generate 1 free fight action per turn, which synergizes with a combat-oriented rogue like Tony, who already gets a free attack if he has a bounty. So with this, he can get 5 attacks a turn. Again, not a whole lot of competition for the body slot, although Guardians do have Bandolier, which costs half the experience point, or there is a free version, and then the upgraded version gives them a willpower skill icon, which, I mean, I think you can, in some cases, that may be better. I find this card interesting because we talked a lot about, during our review of the Black Fan, we talked about ways of getting a rogue an extra hand slot. This is one way to do that. However, it is worth noting that this card does not synergize particularly well with either of the investigators who want Black Fan, that being Preston or Jenny, since this card is illicit and Preston can't take it, and Jenny's main firearm is her twin 45s, which take up 2 hand slots, so this doesn't help her. What do you guys think about the Quickdraw Holster?
One thing to note, I remember seeing a couple players make this mistake, is that you still have to pay the ammo cost. It doesn't negate the ammo. You still have to pay ammo for your gun in your holster. The other thing is that most Guardian weapons are 2 hands. So in Guardians, this becomes a lot less attractive. Bandolier becomes a lot more attractive, like you were saying, Man from Laying. That willpower stat boost alone, I think, is probably worth it. And the issue in Rogue is that you have a lot of other things to be spending your experience on. And I do often feel like Rogues don't necessarily need that 3rd hand slot. It's like once you have Derringer and lockpicks, you're good to go.
Yeah.
4 XP does seem like a lot.
Steep. When you compare this to other cards that give you additional actions in Rogue, we'll talk about one in a bit here, like 4 experience to get essentially 1 extra fight action versus Eon Chart that gives you one extra move, evade, or investigate 3 times. Like, this card is also limited by the fact that you have to draw your weapon first, and then you have to be able to keep putting ammo on it or keep playing other weapons. Because otherwise this card does nothing.
Oh yeah, and that's actually I think the real nail in the coffin for this for me is the fact that you have to draw this and put this into play, and you've got to have a one-handed weapon in play, taking up a hand slot before you can move it onto the holster. You can't play a pistol directly onto the holster. You have to kick out your Chicago typewriter to play your Derringer. Then you got to put the Derringer on the holster. So it's the hoops for an additional fight action, maybe.
I think the investigator that I think makes the most use of it is Tony, because he has his 2 Colts, his 2 one-handed Colts.
Oh, because they're one-handed. That's right. I will say, you mentioned the whole Jenny thing earlier. I literally played Bandolier in that deck because Jenny can take Bandolier level 0, and the whole idea was to have the end game be Black Fan and Twin 45s, which are two-handed, which doesn't work with the Quickdraw Holster.
And 4 XP is the area where you start to trek with okay, I want my weapon. Yeah. So it's in Guardian, I'm not going to spend 4 XP on this. I'm going to spend 5 XP on the hammer or 5 XP on flamethrower. And in Guardian, or in Rogue rather, you're just going to spend that 4 experience upgrading your Derringers.
Yep.
Like I was saying earlier, you don't need the 3rd hand slot.
I think I can see why this is 4 XP though, because I feel like I feel like when designing it, it has to be more XP than the Garrote Wire, and it has to be more XP than Bandolier level 2, because on paper it looks like it does more than those, although you do have the problem of jumping through hoops and the weird part of having to sequence your assets properly in order to make it work. What's up?
The way I see it is it's like a worse Leo.
Yeah.
It takes up a better slot, admittedly. But when you compare this to Leo Luke level 1, right? Leo costs 5 and 1 experience and gives you an extra action regardless of the board state. He's always going to give you an extra action. Whereas this costs 4 experience, 4 resources, requires you to play a gun. That gun has ammo, and you've attached it to this asset.
Yeah.
Then you get your extra actions.
And you probably need some way of adding extra ammo, which means you're probably playing either, if you're a Guardian, you're playing extra ammunition, or you're playing Contraband or something like that, which I've never been a particular fan of to get. I mean, it's fine and dandy you're getting that extra action every turn, but you're going to burn through that ammo pretty quickly, and then now you've got an empty gun sitting on this thing, and then you've got to play another gun to get that, and then swap the guns around. And I mean, admittedly that's free, but yeah. How would we rate this one?
I compare this to Haste, actually, because Haste is okay, well, if I need to take 3 fight actions in 1 turn, which you often do in Arkham Horror, especially if you're running pistols that only do 2 damage per shot, then I think Haste gets the job done better.
I would agree. Haste also doesn't take up your body slot.
Exactly.
And Haste also lets you do other things like draw, get a 3rd draw, or resource, get a 3rd resource. It makes everything more efficient, whereas just gives you more fight actions. It doesn't even make you better at those fight actions.
You know what I think happened here? I think they ended up with an extra piece of art for Delilah O'Rourke, the fan favorite, and they had to use her. And you know what I also think? I think this was supposed to be in the Mike McGlenn set. All 3 of these cards scream Mike McGlenn to me.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
So how would you rate this one, Nate?
I want to give it a tentacle. Unfortunately, it's too expensive, both in resources and experience, for what it really doesn't do. I feel like this is going to be one of those cards that you look at with rose-tinted glasses for a little while, but then you play it and you sort of realize this is clunky. This doesn't do what I want it to do. And if you want extra actions, just play something like Leo DeLuca or Ace in the Hold, or something along those lines.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even thought of Ace of the Hole. I mean, I was comparing it to Haste, which I think does this card's job way more efficiently. But Ace in the Hole, yeah, absolutely, play that instead. That being said, I think I'm going to give it an other thing, because at least it's not absolutely terrible. If it's overcosted XP wise, I understand why, But if you're just swimming in XP, then yeah, I'll give us an Elder thing for that reason alone. I mean, it's kind of cool. I really think this was supposed. All three of these cards is supposed to be in the Mike McGlenn expansion, and that would make sense. And I have a feeling this is the. You know how in every cycle there's like this preview card that like previews what's coming next. Well, I have a feeling. Guys, it's going to be the Urban expansion.
Well. This is too much XP and too many resources. I don't know. I don't think I can give this a tentacle. Probably an Elder thing, but again, like you say, Leo DeLuca costs 1 XP, or you can just stick with the level 0 version and get an extra action. Seems like a lot of work and rigmarole to I mean, maybe, I guess you might consider this a blessed token, but seems like it could go in too many investigators for that, so I'll stick with Elder Thing. Again, probably a card I won't play all that often. Just seems like it's too expensive for what it does. Yeah. That's going to do it for our look at the Guardian/Rogue cards in the Edge of the Earth Investigator expansion. If you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments down below. Any final thoughts? Kind of a disappointing bunch of cards.
Yeah. A lot of these cards, I think, look better on paper than they perform in practice. And Old Shotgun is just confusing and weird, and the fact that it like interacts very strangely with things like Dexter or Illicit or Fence, or there's just so many weird things that you do with that card. It just makes it confusing. And Snipe is just, why doesn't it say fast?
Why is this in Lily's set? I don't know. All three of these, but I'm calling it now. Mike McGlenn is going to be in the next set. Gonna call it now. These were for Mike McGlenn.
That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you hear, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. If you need to contact me, I can be reached at manfromlang@gmail.com. I'm also on Twitter at manfromlang. Until the stars are right, keep your shotgun close and your elder sign closer. Take care out there, and happy investigating.